Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world today. Thanks for joining us on this DevOps.com webinar, Standardizing Jenkins with CloudBees Jenkins Team. And of course, that is sponsored by CloudBees. We have a really great webinar on tap today with two really great speakers, and it's one I'm sure you're going to get a whole lot out of. But before we get things kicked off, I would like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, this webinar is being recorded, so if at any time you miss part of the webinar, you want to listen to it again, the recording will be available probably about 24 hours after the webinar, and you will receive an email link to the recorded webinar, and then as well you can also check back on the DevOps.com website for an archived copy of it. And at any time during the presentation, if you have a question for any of our two esteemed speakers, you may submit your question during the webinar. As I said, anytime, just use the questions section there on the control panel. And then we will get to the audience questions before we close out today's webinar. Okay, with that, I would like to go ahead and introduce our two speakers for today. We have Bhavani Rao, who's a product marketing manager, and Andres Rodriguez, who is a technical lead, and both are from CloudBees. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Charlene. My name is Bhavani Rao. I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm a product marketing manager at CloudBees. Andres, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Andres Rodriguez. I'm a tech lead in the CloudBees engineering organization, and I'm based here in Seville, Spain, and I will be running the demo later in the webinar. Thank you.
Well, first of all, we're both very, very excited that you guys joined us today of all days, because if you have been watching our website or getting our Google alerts or getting tweets from us, we just announced the public availability of CloudBees Jenkins Team. But before I launch into the product, I want to give you a lineup on what we're going to be talking about today. So specifically, my intention or our intention on this webinar is to give you a discussion around what are some of the challenges that teams face with implementing Jenkins within their own organization. Specifically, if you are a team and you are trying to use Jenkins for continuous delivery, what are the challenges with using that product as is out of the box? So then one way to answer that problem or that challenge is with CloudBees Jenkins Team. And I'll break into or drill down on some of the components of CloudBees Jenkins Team, which would be the CloudBees Jenkins distribution, the CloudBees Assurance Program, which is a verification process of identifying vetting the plugins as well as the Jenkins core itself, and the support aspect of it. Following from there, Andres will take the baton and do a demo, and he'll highlight a few features through Beekeeper as well as other functionality. And then we'll do a quick summary, and before the summary, we'll do a real short poll to see if any interest for some, and from there we'll open it up for Q&A. So if you have any questions, as Charlene mentioned, please just go ahead and type them into the chat window, and we'll address them as we go. Let's get started. So let me set the stage for you. I think many of the people on this call are very familiar with the fact that Jenkins is the #1 automation platform for continuous integration, and it's rapidly advancing to become the #1 automation platform for continuous delivery. And the reason for that is because it's proven to create complex continuous delivery pipelines. Along those lines, another huge asset of Jenkins is that it's got this enormous community of users who contribute plugins on a regular basis. There's well over 1.7 million users out there. There's roughly at this point in time about 1,300 plugins that are able to connect Jenkins to a variety of different tools in the DevOps space, running the gamut from code and commit all the way to deploy, which is fantastic. So that really, empowers Jenkins as a solid platform for doing CI. However, when it comes to doing continuous delivery, it can be a little bit challenging. And the reason is because some of the challenges that teams face with Jenkins is that the rate of innovation is so fast with regard to the plugins, the components themselves, and many of them are developed independently. So it's always a debate as to whether they actually work well together or in your particular instance. So do the plugins actually work as advertised? Because it might have worked for someone else, but you don't really know if it works for yourself because your environment is slightly different than when it was where it was developed and committed to. And then if we upgrade Jenkins to try to take advantage of what the latest functionality is, how can we do so without it crashing, especially if we have Jenkins running in a production environment? Now, given all that, if we have any questions, any issues, who do we talk to when there's trouble? Is there a central person we can go to and choke? Well, that's the reason that we are proud to announce, or very excited to announce, CloudBees Jenkins Team, which just came out as in the form of publicly announced via press release a few hours ago. And in one sentence, CloudBees Jenkins Team is the CloudBees Jenkins distribution with curated, verified integrations and expert support for organizations in need of a reliable, continuous delivery solution. So let me break this further. Let's talk about some of the components of the product and then how it benefits you as a potential subscriber or user of the product. So as I mentioned, the product is broken into 3 different pieces. We have the rock-solid Jenkins distribution, which consists of both the plugins as well as the core. We have a CloudBees Assurance Program, which is a process for evaluating, testing, hardening the Jenkins core as well as the corresponding plugins to make sure that they work well together. And lastly, we have a support aspect, which is more than just being able to have someone to call, but a set of valuable resources that you can tap into at any time. So having said that, what's the corresponding benefits? What's the value behind each of these components? Well, I'm just going to hit upon the highlights here, but basically if you have a rock-solid Jenkins distribution, that basically makes it so that you don't have to worry about upgrading. You're going to eventually get to a point where you have boring upgrades. You hit one button and you can get into the next release that comes about. With regard to having verified integrations or plugins that work seamlessly with each other, you don't need to question or have any guesswork with regard to what plugin does this, whether it works with your existing tool set, and then you can take advantage of the entire Jenkins plugin ecosystem. And then with regard to support, you can access Jenkins supports at any time, so you can, not have to worry about putting Jenkins into a production environment and having critical business critical applications being delivered through that platform and not having someone to talk to. So the end result is that the benefits combine to be able to deliver continuous delivery with peace of mind. So I'm going to talk through each of these, and what I'm going to do is for each of the components, starting with the rock-solid Jenkins distribution, then the CAP program, and then the support, I'm going to give you some of the high-level statements on what the definitions are, what you get with this, and then I'm going to follow up each section with the benefits that are associated with that. So let's start off with the Jenkins distribution itself. So as I mentioned, it's a rock-solid distribution of plugins and core. So we've basically hardened it, made sure that the plugins work together. We combine those two into what we call an envelope that's issued on a monthly basis. It's a 4 to 6 week cadence, but for the purposes of simplification, I just say, hey, it's a monthly basis, and it's taken from the most current Jenkins LTS line available to us that's stable. And we also endeavor to try to be able to allow our subscribers or customers to be able to upgrade as long as they're within a rolling 9-month window of the last couple of releases. As part of this Jenkins distribution, we have taken the lead when it comes to delivering security fixes. So with an open source community, you always have the challenge of, security threats, and CloudBees has taken the lead with regard to being able to deliver security for the community. And I'd like to just highlight that in the next couple of slides. So for example, we recently learned a few months ago that there was a security threat to Jenkins at a conference. So we were immediately notified our customers about the threat and commenced work on creating a corresponding fix. Within a few days, 5 days to be exact, we went ahead and we had the patch ready. We released it to customers. We notified our customers via email, and now we've even improved upon that. We not only have to, not only have we notified customers via email, but we can actually now notify customers within the product itself through in-product notifications and do something called incremental upgrades, which lets you go ahead and install that patch directly once you get that notification. This is something that Andres will show as part of the demo. So just to quickly wrap up with regard to security, we're taking the lead with trying to safeguard the best interests of the community by trying to address security threats as soon as we know about them, and we continue on a regular basis to stand and watch guard for the benefit of the Jenkins community. So having said that, let me just wrap up real quickly on some of the benefits behind the feature, which is the CloudBees Jenkins distribution. Well, you get the latest innovation that the Jenkins community has because we're picking up either a monthly or an incremental update. You get to eliminate any downtime worries because you're working with a very stable software product. It's not just the core, but also the plugins that have been tested to work as one cohesive unit. You get to have excitingly boring one-click upgrades. So those days of having to worry about, oh my God, will Jenkins crash on me because I'm going to take this load, this next release, all that can be a thing of the past. And then you no longer have to worry about the security fixes because we proactively go about the process of notifying you and giving you the option through incremental updates to pick up the latest security fixes, which we'll show you later on in the demo. So let's move on to the next component, which will be the CloudBees Assurance Program. I would like to call the CloudBees Assurance Program the engine that is under the hood. And what I mean by that is that the CloudBees Assurance Program is the process that we use to actually deliver the CloudBees Jenkins distribution. And it's a rigorous vetting process for verifying the Jenkins core and plugins. The diagram on the right is a oversimplification of many of the tests that we do. I do have the slide, but it's such a detailed slide that it's not necessary. It would be better to just highlight the value that we provide. And we're basically testing the top open source plugins as individual components. We also do a interoperability test of the Jenkins core and plugins in combination to curate components and then verify the corresponding upgrade paths. So we've tested it and validated that, hey, yeah, this is an upgrade path that's valid for people within that 9-month window. And we've got a significant investment in this CloudBees Assurance Program. There's well over 30 plus engineers plus hundreds of hours of testing that are put into every release, doing regression testing and a variety of different types of testing. So this is a program that has a significant investment. It's very difficult to replicate, easily because of the fact that it doesn't make sense for many customers or subscribers to have a similar program, because the focus as a subscriber or customer should be around delivering software faster and not so much around trying to validate which tools are good or not. So the CAP program takes that burden off of you and puts it on us so that we are now responsible for making sure that's happening on a regular, continuous basis. This is a huge value, the subscription, because when you purchase the CloudBees Jenkins Team subscription, you get the benefit of having engineers who are dedicated to making sure that the CloudBees Jenkins distribution we send out is stable, it's upgradable, and it's secure. and they issue updates on a regular basis. It's continuous. We increase the number of plugins that we test on a regular basis. So I'm going to show some of that. The functionality or the benefits that the CAP program provides is exposed through a feature called Beekeeper Upgrade Assistant. I have a screenshot of that coming up, but more importantly, Andres will also just demo that feature. So this feature will expose some of the benefits that some of the deliverables from the CloudBees Assurance Program. So a little bit more about CAP. So given that we are in the DevOps space and we're delivering continuous delivery software, we actually, as some people would say, we manufacture dog food and we eat our own dog food, in the sense that we literally use our own software to deliver two types of releases. We have a rolling release and incremental releases. So a rolling release is sent out every 4 to 6 weeks, and I've kind of oversimplified it by saying it's a monthly release. But this is where we incorporate some of the latest innovations from the Jenkins community, whether that be in the core or in the plugins, and then issue it out, as well as add any security fixes that have been implemented recently. And each release brings a new recommended configuration. This whole process is managed through Beekeeper. The other option is, the other release that we have is incremental upgrades, and this refers specifically to plugins or security fixes that we deliver in between the rolling releases. So rather than having to wait for a rolling release every 4 to 6 weeks, we have the option to push out incremental upgrades and then notify you in the product itself that there's an incremental upgrade available as a version number that'll pop in, and you can then decide if you want to upgrade a plugin or accept a security release. It has the same level of confidence and hardening as a rolling release, and it has the added advantage of identifying for you what is going to be changing, what components are going to be upgraded. So I have here a screenshot of the Beekeeper Upgrade Assistant, which is the front end or the UI for the CloudBees Assurance Program. So I'd like to have Andres speak to the details on this slide.
So we will see later in the demo the user interface for the CloudBees Assurance Program, which is the Beekeeper Upgrade Assistant. This UI is just the tip of the iceberg of the work that is involved in making CloudBees Jenkins Team a reality. The big, really big and continuous effort is the one involving making the hardened distribution, evolving it through time, and getting the new features and bug fixes with the level of confidence and security we want to provide our customers. But talking about Beekeeper, basically it's a component that is installed in every CloudBees Jenkins instance that performs continuous monitoring of the instance, looking for the installed components, how the update centers are configured so that they can pick the upgrades correctly. It helps maintain the instance inside the recommended configuration that is upgraded in each rolling or incremental releases. It helps doing that by filtering the plugins that are offered during the plugin manager. We will also see that during the demo. It also reports any deviation that it found in your instance configuration according to the recommended one. And if you want, instead of performing the corrective actions that Beekeeper is going to propose you can tell Beekeeper to perform that enforcement automatically, and he will perform the changes, installing missing plugins or upgrading plugins that need an upgrade, so that we can maintain the instance inside the configuration that CloudBees is recommending for each of the versions of CGT. Pavani?
Yeah, thank you, Andres. So some of the I want to show you some of the output from the CAP program. And so as part of the CAP program, we identify those plugins that are either verified or compatible with each of the distributions. And here's just a sampling of some of the plugins that we've verified through the program. But for a more complete list, you need to go to CloudBees Network, which is a portal. And I have a slide on that later on in this discussion, in this presentation as well. And that portal has the ability to filter and identify in real time which plugins are valid or verified or compatible. So verified plugins are 100% bulletproof type plugins. Then we have something called compatible plugins. Compatible plugins are next up on the roadmap to being tested and verified. These are plugins that have shown a high degree of quality and very popular amongst the community. So we've got them staged up as the next items to be certified, to be verified, to move into the next stage of 100%ness. So from there, let me just wrap up and say that, okay, we've talked a little bit about the CloudBees Assurance Program, saying that this is a huge value, the subscription, because you get an engine under the hood that continuously delivers you updates of Jenkins core and plugins, a growing list of plugins. So the net benefit of that is that you don't have to deal with 1,000 or 1,300 plugins and trying to sift and vet through all those on your own. You can immediately zero in and identify those plugins that are going to work best for you and pick the ones that work best with your favorite DevOps tools. And because of the fact that Beekeeper does the work of notifying you when upgrades are available, it also helps monitor and identify any configuration issues. You can keep within a certain compliance circle. And what I mean by that is that you can decide on your own, hey, I'm going to stay within the recommended configuration. However, if you want to pick up a plugin that Beekeeper doesn't recommend, you can go and get that plugin and you can install it, but Beekeeper will review, monitor your instance and realize, hey, you got something out there that's out of compliance, and just let you know and give you an alert on that. And lastly, the CloudBees Assurance Program, as a continuous process, it regularly publishes information on plugin stability, security, and compatibility directly in the CloudBees network. It gives you immediate guidance on which plugins are robust and compatible. It even tells you if there's any issues with any particular security aspects of that plugin. So if I have a screenshot on CloudBees network, you can go there and register as a non-subscriber, but you can still get, not as a customer, but you can still get access to a lot of information, such as identify some of the plugins that are verified and compatible. So let's go to talking a little bit about customer success. And this is a huge component of the offering as well. So we've got the basics covered, which is being able to have access to developer level support engineers any time of day and pretty much in any time zone. We follow follow the sun support process. So regardless of where you are in the world, we've got somebody to help you out. In addition to that, as part of the support offering, we have assigned customer success managers. These are people that help white glove the whole process of onboarding you once you sign up for a CloudBees Jenkins Team subscription. So they'll help your organization or your team get onboarded and help you get you familiar with the product, as well as convey the best practices, etc. We also offer services through CloudBees professional services, such as being able to help architect your instance or optimize your instance. And then we offer free training through the CloudBees University. And then lastly, I mentioned a little bit about CloudBees Network, which I'm going to jump into right now. Oh, actually, let me go into it later on. But CloudBees Network is a portal, which I'll go into in 2 slides down, that'll talk about, there's a user community you can access, so you can talk to other people that are using CloudBees products. Documentation, you can get access to submitting tickets. You can get a knowledge base and identify potential best practices. So having said that, we strive as a as part of our customer success organization to deliver 100% customer satisfaction. And as you can see, these are some metrics that we've captured over the last couple of quarters. We're pretty close to hitting that target. And we, based off of, trying to empower our customers from a support, training, consultation, and certification perspective. So let's talk a little bit about CloudBees Network. If you go to go.cloudbees.com, this is a portal that serves as a central repository of Jenkins knowledge and access to free training if you're a customer, if you're a subscriber or a customer, and as well as a community where you can talk to your peers and identify what kind of challenges they're going through. If you're not a subscriber, you can still get access, you get a login and password and still get some valuable resources. So I welcome you to do that if you have the time. Having said that, let me just wrap up by saying a little bit about our support organization and above and beyond, because of the fact that it's above and beyond just having someone to call and talk to about a particular issue. So, you know, obviously if you have access to Jenkins experts, you can solve issues, you know, on the fly. You can get the help that you need immediately. And then if you have the free self-paced online training, lets you be able to get Jenkins certified. You can get a better understanding of CI and CD, not just for yourself, but the entire team. And then we have assigned customer success managers that proactively engage with you from day one so that you get the most of the value from your subscription. And then I mentioned a little bit about CloudBees Networks, where you can, CloudBees Network, the portal, where you can find answers and resolve issues with the knowledge base, diagnostic tools, and talk to other people in the community. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Andres go through a demo, and take it away, Andres.
Thanks, Mavani. Well, now we're going to go through a pre-recorded demo for additional smoothness, but before doing that, I want to highlight the different concepts that we are going to see throughout the demo. We will start doing an initial installation of CloudBees Jenkins Team, and we will see that it's really easy to perform, and we will highlight the differences between Jenkins and CloudBees Jenkins Team. When the instance is installed, we will show some of the differences in the behavior when Beekeeper is enabled and disabled. Okay, of course we recommend that you always keep Beekeeper enabled, but there's always the escape hatch to, okay, I want to avoid this stuff. There are things that are going to change in the instant, and we are going to show that in the demo. Going back to having Beekeeper enabled, we are going to see some of the elements that are visible in the UI related to the CloudBees Assurance Program. Basically, the monitoring and enforcement of the recommended configuration. To do that, during the demo, we are going to manually, without disabling Beekeeper, get the instance out of the recommended configuration. We will see how Beekeeper detects the issue, provides the recommended solution, and even let you make Beekeeper perform the correction automatically. As a last time, the last part of the demo, we will perform an installation of an incremental upgrade. The thing is that it's going to be based on a real situation. The version we are performing the demo with, which was released just with, saw a security issue just 1 day after the release was performed. One of the plugins that is included in the distribution, a really important plugin, had a security issue in just 1 day after the release, and in less than 24 hours we had the incremental upgrade in place with all the hardening and the same level of confidence of a normal release available for CloudBees Jenkins Team customers. Okay, so we are going to move to the...
At this point, we're going to queue up the demo.
Okay, so we're going to start now. Okay. CloudBees Jenkins Team is based on Jenkins 2, of course, so it's secure by default, which was one of the new features in the Jenkins 2. So we start by introducing the administrator password, and we are welcomed with the setup wizard. In the setup wizard, we can either go for a normal installation with the plugins that are suggested, or customize that list. I'm going to stop here for a second to highlight a couple of stuff. The list of suggested and proposed plugins in the setup wizard is specific to CloudBees Jenkins Team, and of course is based on the contents of the curated distribution that forms the base of CloudBees Jenkins Team. And there are two main differences between how the installation works in Jenkins and how the installation works in CloudBees Jenkins Team. Basically, the first one is that CloudBees Jenkins Team installations can be fully performed offline. with all the plugins that are offered in the setup wizard, you can perform an installation without an internet connection. The other main difference is that CloudBees Jenkins Team installations are repeatable. That means that if I perform an installation today and I install the same version a few months in the future and I select the same plugins, I will get exactly the same instance. So this is really important in enterprise deployments. Contrast that to a Jenkins installation in which the plugins that are selected are downloaded in the newest version available at the time of install, which ends up providing different results for each installation depending on the moment in time. Now we are in the welcome page of CloudBees Jenkins Team, and we see that there is one initial alert. It's an incremental upgrade that we will work with at the end of the demo. That alert will remain until that moment. So, and this is Beekeeper. Basically, this is the main page of the Beekeeper Upgrade Assistant. Right now, everything is green. It means that you are running the instance inside a recommended configuration. After every initial installation, you will be always in a recommended configuration. And if we go through this page, we can see the different components that Beekeeper is monitoring. Okay. If we go now to the plugin manager in Jenkins, we can see that the list of updates is empty. Why is that? Because I'm running in the recommended configuration. All the plugins that I have installed are in the version that Beekeeper is recommended. So there's no need to offer an upgrade. They are in the versions that the CloudBees Assurance Program has vetted. They work well together. Okay. However, if I go to Beekeeper and disable it, what is going to happen right now? The instance start working similar to a normal Jenkins instance. So if I go back to the plugin manager, and I'm going now, okay, I can see there are many plugins for which there is an update available. For each of these plugins, I will have to make a decision that, hey, do I take the last version or not? What are the risks of taking each of these changes? There are many changes, so the number of possible configurations is almost exponential. When you are enrolling the CloudBees Assurance Program, you get the updates by picking the upgrades that Beekeeper proposes. In this sense, you get coordinated upgrades of all the plugins after going through all the hardening and QA processes included in the CloudBees Assurance Program. Okay, now we are going to go back and enable Beekeeper again, because we are going to keep Beekeeper enabled for the rest of the demo, and we are going to break the recommended configuration even with Beekeeper enabled. And how are we going to do that? Doing something that is possible inside Jenkins, that is installing a plugin manually. We're going to go to the advanced tab in the plugin manager and upload a plugin that, of course, we know it's outside the recommended configuration. It's Active Directory in version 2.0, and we are going to install it. The plugin is installed. Everything is working correctly. And now we already see in the header that there are 2 alerts. Something has happened. And we see the warning in the Manage Jenkins Play that there are issues that may be compromising the stability. And here we can see that Beekeeper has detected that the Active Directory plugin is not running in the recommended configuration, in the recommended version. Recommended version is 2.4, but we are using version 2.0. So the recommended action is that the plugin should be upgraded. And in fact, we can tell Beekeeper to do that automatically. So we allow that enforcement option. Okay. And now we can restart the instance. Every time a plugin is changed in Jenkins, a restart is needed. Plugins can be installed dynamically, but changing them involves a restart. Okay, so we acknowledge the restart. We perform the installation. We log with the admin user we created during the initial install. And if we go to Beekeeper, In the header, we already see that one of the alerts have already disappeared. But if we go to the Beekeeper Upgrade Assistant, we can see that everything is running in the recommended configuration. Okay, here we can see the list of elements that Beekeeper is monitoring. Everything is working correctly at that point. So we are going to pick that security upgrade. Let me pause for a second. And as I said, this release that we are using for the demo was prepared last week. Just 24 hours later, there was a security advisory in Jenkins related to the Git client plugin. It's a really important component of every Jenkins installation, which is using Git as a source control system. So just in less than 24 hours, the CAP team get the new plugin upgrade, made all the checks so that the new recommended configuration passes the quality bar needed for something to be delivered to our customers, and make the plugin upgrade available as an incremental upgrade of the recommended configuration. Okay, so we go here. So we can see that there's a new revision available. That the changes that are going to be included is the Git client plugin, which has been changed from version 2.30 to 2.44, and we can choose to upgrade the system. As you can see, there is a simulation of what is going to happen if you decide to pick that, which we are going to accept right now. Okay, the Beekeeper is staging the components needed to perform the incremental upgrades, and given that the upgrades would involve a restart, he asked us to perform that operation. We accept restarting. And when we start, we will go back to Beekeeper, and we will see that we are running the same version, but in an updated revision, and all the components are in the situation that we were expecting. So as we can see, there was a release, there was a security advisory affecting one of the components involved in the release. In this case, it was less than 24 hours to have the change available for our customers as an incremental upgrade, which makes the difference that it's not just a plugin that I'm upgrading. I'm upgrading the whole configuration to be in a new one that has the same level of hardening and quality that the one that was initially downloaded. So that's it for the demo, and I'm turning it back to Avani.
Thank you. So I just make sure that for everyone who didn't catch that, is that we went to revision 2 with the addition of the incremental update. So
sure.
Okay, so it's back to me, and I'm going to go ahead and say that at this point in time, what I'd like to do is we'd like to do a poll and just assess interest in trying for people. We have an option for attendees to see if they're interested in trying to do a free 14-day trial of CloudBees Jenkins Team. So if you can please present that poll, that'd be great.
Yeah, so it's it should be arriving on your screen any minute now if it's not there already, and it looks like it is because we've got folks who are submitting their answers for the poll, and we'll give it about 5 or 6 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and move forward. So if you haven't filled out your answer, go ahead and do that now, and we'll close it now.
Okay, great. So let me just wrap up with a summary slide, and then from there we'll just go into questions and answers. So we've talked a lot about a product we are very excited to release to the market, and I just want to let you know, hey, now why do you care? Why is it important that CloudBees Jenkins Team could be something that could help you? Well, there's some key components to it and some key benefits behind it. So we have a very solid Jenkins distribution. We have verified integrations and a legendary support organization. So the net benefit is that where you get the option to get the best of what open source has to offer with a stable, reliable release and the support that you need, so you can deploy confidently and get those software applications out there quicker and faster. You have, you're able to upgrade Jenkins without any worries going forward. You'll be able to use the DevOps tools that you enjoy without having to change the way that you develop and any of your internal processes. And you can eliminate a lot of the guesswork with regard to taking advantage of the huge plugin ecosystem. And last, you have direct access to engineers or developers, developer level engineers who can help support your particular instance of Jenkins, plus a wealth of resources, whether that be free training, being able to talk directly to other users in the community, as well as get an understanding of what best practices there are. So having said that, I would say that at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions. I really enjoyed you guys being on the call, so if you can go ahead and type in your questions here, we'll go ahead and get started from that.
Yeah, thanks, Bhavani. We've gotten a ton of questions in so far from the audience, which is really awesome. But I do want to let you know that if for some reason we're not able to get to your question during the webinar, Bhavani and Andres both are going to be getting copies of the questions, so I'm sure they would be more than happy to follow up with you offline and get the answer that you're looking for. Okay, moving with that in mind, let's go ahead and get to those questions. Robert is asking, is it possible to use or connect a Jenkins slave on a private server with a hosted Jenkins server?
Andres will have to answer that one.
A little technical. Do we still have Andres?
Sorry, yes, I was muted. Can you repeat it, please?
Sure. Is it possible to use or connect a Jenkins slave on a private server with a hosted Jenkins server?
Well, we would have to go through all the details on the connectivity, but I don't see any limitation. If there are the connectivity needed for the protocols between the master and the agent, there are several options. The SSH, the JNLP, and all the connectivity concerns are satisfied. I don't see any problem. We could follow up if there is some specific configuration that may have any issue, but there should be no problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question is from James, who asks, how does this new version integrate with the Jenkins operations platform?
You mean the operation center?
Correct. That's probably what he's talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me? Shall I answer?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
CloudBees Jenkins Team does not include the components to connect to an operations center instance. For that, you should use the client master from CJP or the managed master from CloudBees Jenkins Enterprise. CloudBees Jenkins Team is designed to be used as an isolated master.
So the recommended approach is for our potential customers is to try to get, if you want to use a management capability, that functionality is going to be delivered in the long run on CloudBees Jenkins Enterprise. So that would be your best choice. The Operations Center will not be available with CloudBees Jenkins Team at this point in time.
Okay. All right, great. So Mike has kind of a two-part question. His first one is, what plugins are in the core distribution? And then how are plugins that are not in the core distribution curated and integrated?
Okay, for the components in the core distribution, they will be listed in the plugin site in CVM, and they are all right now. There are around 120, including in CloudBees Jenkins Team, and they go through all the curation and all that stuff. All the other plugins that currently are not part of the distribution, they are also available in the plugin manager if you have access to the CloudBees update site. And the thing that Beekeeper does is that for those plugins that are outside the distribution, we let you perform the installation. In the CVN side, you can see that they are not verified, not compatible, so they are other plugins. But we filter those that would break the recommended configuration. For example, if you want to install a plugin that is available in the update center but is not included in the distribution, that won't be compatible with the plugins that we are betting, or with the versions of the plugin that we are betting, we are going to filter that plugin and offer you a compatible version if it exists. If it does not exist, we will just filter the plugins. That part of the things that Beekeeper does in trying to help you maintain your instance in the recommended configuration.
I would like to add that if the person who's asking the question, you can go to go.cloudbees.com, and there's a link in the top navigation called plugins. If you click on that, it will present you with the option. If you hit browse on there, that browse button will then present the option to be able to look at all the plugins. You can filter them by verified, compatible, or not either verified or compatible, in which case you'll see all the non-tested plugins that are the universe of plugins that are available.
Excellent, because that was actually another question that we had. So thanks for answering that. Okay, our next question is from Jed, who asks, does the one-button upgrade automatically update plugins where required?
Yes, and it will provide several simulations depending on the enforcement options you have in Beekeeper. We have seen that there are several enforcement options, but it will upgrade all the plugins that are needed to keep the recommended configuration in a coordinated way. The idea between having these incremental upgrades is that you shouldn't be upgrading plugins on an isolated way. The thing is that, hey, pick changes in a coordinated way that have been through all the hardening and testing and quality assurance process, so that you get new features, new fixes without losing any of the benefits of the CloudBees Assurance Program. So yes, Beekeeper in an incremental upgrades in a coordinated way all the plugins that are needed specifically for your instance. I mean, it only upgrades plugins that are installed, and it will only install new plugins if one of the upgrades has brought a new dependency.
Okay, all right. As a follow-up, he asked, can you run in dry mode so you can see what changes are being made to plugins and any other features?
Right now, you only have a simulation, which is the one that we have seen in the demo, which is, okay, this is what is going to happen, but there's not more advanced dry run is not available at this moment.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, next question is from Ken, who asks, does Team support small groups such as 2 to 3 developers?
Yes, there's no reason it can't.
That's an easy one. Okay, and then a follow-up question. Can Team still be used for continuous integration? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I guess Ken is a really happy person right now. So, okay, our next question then is from Anish, who asks, do we get assistance in creating the integration and delivery workflow?
So the customer success managers can help coordinate and give you guidance on that, and and then the engineers that we have, the actual technical support engineers can help with the balance of that. So they can help you get started with templates, etc., and then you can finish it up with the actual technical support engineers that we have.
And on CBN, you are going to find a growing set of best practices and knowledge-based articles and all that stuff that is also continually being improved, and it's a great resource to get started in that, and especially tailored for the use cases of our customers.
Great. All right. Just a reminder to the audience, if you have a question for Bhavani or Andres, please don't hesitate. You can still get your question in. And as I said before, if we don't get to it during the webinar, they'll be happy to follow up with you offline and get the answers that you're looking for. Okay, our next question is from Jason. He's asking, so say when a bug in a community plugin is found after moving to Jenkins Team, or a community plugin change via an upgrade breaks a job, who fixes the plugin, and when would the plugin update be pushed out? He says many community plugins are not frequently fixed.
Well, for plugins that are inside the verification program, inside the CloudBees Assurance Program, as part of the verification, there are proactively contributions from CloudBees engineers to those plugins. We work in string coordination with the maintainers, But for plugins that are considered verified, there are proactive engineering resources that are contributing to that. Once the plugin is, the fix is committed to the master branch and a new release is performed, we refresh the verified version in the distribution, and we deploy it in the next available, normally in a rolling release, but if the fix is of a really high severity, it would deserve an incremental release.
Okay, great. Just doing a time check here. We're about 10 minutes to the top of the hour, so we have time for a few more questions. Our next one is from Jeremiah, who asks, does professional services offer migration assistance from a current Jenkins install?
Yes, it's a simple answer. We do, but I think there's even documentation, so you can't. We're a company built along the lines of teaching people how to fish rather than fishing for themselves. So we have documentation. You're welcome to use it. Otherwise, you can contact professional services, absolutely. Especially if you have a large, huge master and on hundreds of jobs, it might be more of a challenge. So.
All right, great. Thank you. Let's see. We have another question here from Stefan, who asks, how about when you need to downgrade a version of a plugin? What are some of the best practices around that?
Well, downgrades are always much more risky than upgrades, because normally if there are some changes in the data that the plugin is managing that the old version does not understand, the possibility of having something that breaks is greater. So the thing is that you can downgrade plugins. In fact, you can downgrade plugins through Beekeeper if you want, but please always take a backup, because the rule of thumb would be, if you can avoid the downgrade, avoid it, because there is great effort in every component in Jenkins to offer backward compatibility, but going the other way around is much more difficult, and it would basically block the development of many features. So if you can avoid the downgrade, avoid it, and always take a backup before performing it.
Okay, wise advice, definitely. Okay, next question then is, actually it's a follow-up from Jeremiah. He's throwing in a lot of questions today, which is great. What is the process for getting a new plugin vetted?
I may be able to pull up a slide that Andres can walk through. So let me try to unhide a slide and show it to you guys, and then have Andres kind of cover it, so that he can kind of reference this as part of the. Okay. I think I'm showing this correctly. So.
Yes, sure. But I think that also the question was involved in, there are some plugins that are now part of the assurance program. How can we get a new plugin that is not in that list to be, let's say, up next in the queue? That could be the question.
It's the question is actually, what is the process for getting a new plugin vetted? So okay. I'm not sure exactly beyond that.
No problem. And as we say, one of the things that we have to do is there's one plugin that we want to add. It can be from different places. The idea, but of course, one of them is that every cloud-based customer has several lines of communication, of feedback, and of course they can propose things and they will be analyzed and prioritized. But the thing is, once there is a plugin that is going to be included in the verification, we do two main branches of activities related to that, which are basically identified in that slide Bhavan is showing. But the first part is that we say, okay, which are the critical use cases that the plugin must satisfy? What is the must-have that the plugin must offer in a reliable and confident way? So, and that is going to guide every other step that we are going to do at the end. The thing that there are basically two branches. After we select a plugin, we identify the critical use case, and we select a version that we want to include or refresh in our distribution, what we call the single component perspective, which is taking some of the stuff that is always related to the plugin by itself, such as documentation, that dependencies are coherent, that there are good test coverage based on the critical test, in the critical use cases, because for us it's better to have a 20% coverage if it's covering all the critical use cases, that are 90% coverage, that is not covering any of the critical use cases. Then the QA tools such as static analysis, signature analysis, and all that stuff is included. That the code follows several best practice. We have an internal catalog of best practice that we go through all the plugins to see that they are developed according to them. And we also perform a review of the issues that are open. And this is a part of this very important ongoing effort that CloudBees perform continually. Before getting the plugins, we say, okay, with these open issues that currently are, because every plugin that is actively developed has some open issues, it's okay to perform the refresh or perform the initial inclusion. Some of these issues should be prioritized with CloudBees resources. We should wait for the maintainer that we know is working on that. It's okay because it's not a regression. There is a really big discussion related to that before adding or refreshing a new plugin. And that's when we are talking about a single component. But as Bhavani has insisted from the beginning, the big thing about CloudBees Jenkins Team and the rock-solid distribution is that we are not talking about components in isolation. We are talking about many components, the core, and we are talking about more than 100 plugins working together. We must be sure that when we take all the components in the specified versions, everything is working as intended. And that's what we call the distribution perspective. And there is another great deal of testing and things that we do to guarantee that part. So for each component, there is many things related to testing, quality, and all that stuff that is performed for that plugin and then running in the context of the distribution. Because that's one thing that's really important here. The context in which the components are developed individually may not be the same one in which you are going to run it. CloudBees Assurance Program provides you with the assurance that the things that we are delivering has been through all the hardening in the configuration that we are going to recommend you.
Excellent. Okay. I hope that answers the question. Okay, we've got lots more questions here. Ken is asking, is Team a service hosted by CloudBees or a product we can install on our own servers?
You would install it on your own servers.
Okay. All right, great. I think we have time for maybe one more question and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Let's see, another technical question here. Timothy is asking, when will Jenkins Agent be upgraded to use Microsoft.NET Framework version later than 3.5? For example, 4.5. Is that something that's in the works?
Yes, I think that is, I would have to follow up with the team that is working on that part, but I think there is an ongoing effort, but I don't have the exact information right now. But I think there is activity right now related to that, but I would need to confirm.
Okay, great. And we'll go ahead and make this our last question for the day. Naveen asks, can we add and use our own developed plugins on CloudBees Jenkins?
Yes, you can install every plugin, of course. Given that Beekeeper have no knowledge of those plugins, it won't perform any warning of them. Of course, if your plugins has dependencies that are not compatible with the recommended configuration, Beekeeper may raise an issue or even filter it from the plugin manager, as we can see. But of course, you can install. You have the same extensibility in CloudBees Jenkins. We are not removing anything. We are just adding additional confidence and assurance.
Okay, great. Well, I think that is all the time that we have for the questions. Every single one of them was great, and we have a lot more in the queue. So I apologize that we weren't able to get to all of them. But thank you again for submitting your questions. We will definitely be able to follow up with you guys after the event to make sure that your questions are answered. I am sure that both Bhavani and Andres will make themselves available for you by email. And with that, I would like to thank the audience for joining us today during this webinar, Standardizing Jenkins with CloudBees Jenkins Team. And I also would like to thank Bhavani Rao and Andres Rodriguez for giving such a great presentation. I'm sure the audience got a ton out of it. I know I did. Please check the devops.com website for future webinars. And again, this webinar will be available on demand in about 24 hours. But for now, this is Charlene O'Hanlon, the moderator for today's event, and I'm signing off. Have a great day, everybody.